right, let's move on to our regular part of our agenda, to the consent agenda. Approval of minutes, payments of bills.
If they think the C team's interested, they gotta stick around.
Yeah, I can't, why don't you stay around till 1 o'clock while we're done with our stuff? All right, do I have a motion? Do I have a motion for the bills and minutes?
Resolved that the Board of Education, Township High School District 2A, Cook County, Illinois, hereby takes the following action on the listed consent agenda items. A,
Hey,
approves minutes.
excuse me, if you're gonna talk, can you talk out?
I think they're just using,
I'll talk louder.
All right.
Approves minutes from the meetings held on October 11th and 25/2/11, open and closed. B, approves payment of the bills as presented and listed in section 6B.
Second.
All right, I moved by Tim Walsh, second by Mike Welch. Any questions?
Yeah, I had some questions on the,
Did you submit the questions before, prior to 5 o'clock on Monday, like Tim's done, or?
no.
But that was our agreement and rule that we talked about at our board retreat, right?
Well, unfortunately, I couldn't get them submitted by that time.
Okay,
So,
all right, what's your questions?
when I'm looking, Tim, when I'm looking at the budget, if I look at, well, let me get my lines straight again. If I look at this one, this is the bills, okay?
Okay, so
Payment
what
of
page
bills.
are you at? What page are you at?
Page 29 on the bottom,
Page 29 on the bills,
that's on
Right.
the budget.
right?
or on the budget? Are you talking budget or bills?
This one is a bill, right? This is payment of bills.
Yes, so page 29?
Right, and if you look on there, and it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 line up,
On page 29?
right.
I don't see page 29.
Yes. It's the one on the bottom.
Yeah, it's the number on the
Oh,
bottom.
I'm sorry. All right,
Now, if we go to the budget, and we go to the budget page 17 on the top, or 19 on the bottom, those numbers took me a while to reconcile to. And I look at the account, I look expended month to date, there's 0. But I see the line item here for 1,000. When I look at our budget for the district, I see that we have approved 1,660 for the year, but I don't know why I wouldn't see anything month to date. And year to date,
what account are you talking about?
It's the first line on page 19.
that's right.
Okay. All right,
So that's, the same thing happens with the tuition. All the tuitions that are peppered throughout the bills, when I look at the budget line item, so I look at tuition, and that's account 10, 1130, 2300, 2400. And when I go to the bills, I don't see the month to date. And I believe that is 1,100, 2,300. I can find that page. It's hard to reconcile them both. But the month to date is not in there. Why wouldn't I see that? So that I can tell if we're approaching the 50,000 that, in this one, in the green, in the yellow paper, we budgeted.
If you're looking on the financial statements, these are the expenditures that we've had through the month of October. Okay, the bills that you're looking at are in November. So these haven't really been processed yet because you haven't approved them yet. So that's different.
Okay.
The tuition, as an example, doesn't show up in the financial statements, but it does show up on the bills, and I think the total is $46,000. And that's in the bills. That'll show up on the November financial statements when you get them next month.
Okay, so then all these sums, then I'll be able to reconcile then with what we approved in the budget and the month to date then. Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
Yeah.
Or said a different way, if we're already at 100% here, and there's charges in here, it's not gonna show we're approving something that's over budget, right?
Correct.
And it doesn't, just again, because you keep trying to educate us, Isn't there a way you can show it as an encumbrance, since it's the same period?
I think it needs board action first, though.
Well, if we're putting through processing purchase orders, it is going into the system as an encumbrance.
Okay.
Tuition reimbursement would not be the case.
Do you see that? If it depends on how they process it, Laura. Sometimes it's gonna show up and sometimes it isn't.
Well, then how will
Yeah,
we
but-
know until, I mean,
Well, that's,
That's what we asked him earlier.
yeah.
He's charged with making sure they don't go over budget.
That's right.
He says
That's
he
one of
looks
his
by
things.
department, not by line item.
and that's something that we track in my office. One of the women who works for me has a big red stamp that anytime there's a purchase order, an invoice coming through for me to approve, she stamps it over budget if it's gonna be over budget. And then I know that that item's gonna take it over budget, and I can go and check it, you know, in terms of why it's gonna be over budget. You know, is there a reason for it, that type of thing.
Here's my question, because all these little tabs are on pages where we're over budget on these individual accounts.
On the budget wise?
Yes.
Okay,
This
so
is
my
a-
question to you is, instead of asking Tim blind, to asking him blind wise, what we have had board members do is ask him questions of, you know, your red tabs, where they would be at, and then having him be able to give you the explanation to it, and that's been working so far. And I know if you didn't have, you know, we have till Monday at 5 o'clock to turn in those questions. I just don't want, you know, you're asking him questions that he doesn't, he's not prepared, well, he's prepared for, but per our board retreat, we were supposed to turn in questions by 5 o'clock on Monday so that the staff would be able to answer it at our meeting tonight.
So Matt, that is not the state policy that a board member only has to 5 on Monday. Some of us have other responsibilities that don't allow us the free time to do that.
Well, your packet comes on, arrived at my house at 5 o'clock on Friday, so that gives me 1, 2, 3 days to look at it, so approximately 72 hours to
Well, and
look at it.
you didn't have to work Saturday and Sunday, I did. So unfortunately, I didn't get that done. But my question is not what you're trying, my question is, again, what Tim has been asking, is that mechanism, because we're gonna approve budgets, we're gonna approve items here. But if we're getting dangerously close to what we have budgeted, when do we stop approving them?
What did he say about his red stamp showing that it's over budget? And then he goes to research it, and then you will not pay it, am I right?
Right, they're not approved in my office if they're gonna, unless there's a reason that they're going over budget. For example, Art Ostro comes to me and says, this line item for boys volleyball is gonna be over by $200, but this line item is gonna be under by $200. Once I know that, then I can approve it and say, okay, we'll process this.
But yet we have accounts. Account number, the total account, we're already 2,000 over budget, and that's 10/41/20, 880.
Laura, let me just,
Okay.
maybe I wasn't clear. When we did this one,
Yeah.
I sent an email on it. There's 25 line items, and we're $24,700 over budget on the 25 line items.
Okay.
And that's why I asked the question, how are you addressing this? And he said he'll let a line item go over budget in a department, but the department he won't go over budget.
And how do we know that?
Because he tells us. that.
Because he
Well, yeah,
tells
but
us
he
that, and
tells us,
that's
but
his
we're a million in the
responsibility.
red, but
Excuse me,
how
that
do
is
we
his
see that?
responsibility and is charged by this board, the board has given him, that we do not want to go over budget on departmental, and he knows that. Now, looking at so here's what I want you to do is, because you didn't have time to do it, send an email to Kevin, or like we're doing right now with other board members, and identify those line items. Tim has a process and a policy in place that does not let people expend on one line item to be able to then keep on overexpending on other line items. There is a give and take there, and he is monitoring. That is his job to do.
Mr. Cindy, your answer is not sufficient for me, because we are almost a million in the red. We will be this year, and I would like to know how
So,
we
wait,
how
did
do we
how did you get-
monitor?
Excuse me, how did you get, are we gonna be a million in the red, Mr. McGinnis?
I'm not sure what.
900 is our budget?
The
We're gonna
budget
run
is-
a yes,
Deficit spend,
Deficit.
she means.
yeah,
That's
Okay.
not over budget, that's just deficit of revenue to expenditure.
okay. So where would we go then to monitor these departments so we know how close to 100% we are?
We ask him to monitor it as our employee and report back to us at the monthly budget meeting, at the monthly meeting and the budget section to tell us if anything's going over budget.
But if I want
That's
to
his
see it,
responsibility, that he's employed to do that.
But I'm on Laura's side on this, because I'm trusting you're doing that, but you've never been able, we've asked before, to show us a report by department to show how we are by department. Obviously, you have a way to do it because you're telling us you do it. But I think your concern is the reports we get cannot demonstrate whether that's true or not. I mean, we have to just trust that you're telling us this, and I think what her question is, you know, looking at the two different documents that have different timing on them, and we asked before, but you said you can't do it, if you could lay the budget out by department where we could see how close you were to budget, it would, I think, resolve our concern. But I think before you told us you can't do it, the system can't do it, right? But you have some way of doing it, right, Tim?
This- From my experience,
Well, let's
when I
let Tim
asked
answer.
him,
Well, here's
when
a
I
finance
asked
committee
about
member talking to you,
putting the
right?
budget by department, the program that they use doesn't do that. And what they would have to do is go out and print it up and sort it and spend a lot of manual hours to get it in that format that we approved the budget last year. So that's a lot of manual hours to make that report each month. And even when we did that report last year, it never came back to us every month in that format. I had to ask for it at the March 31st timeframe to get it in that format. It's my understanding that takes a lot of man hours and work, so he can tell you what he does, but I believe he has to go in the system and look at the various accounts that make up that department and add them up and see if they're over budget or not.
Well, why don't we get him to tell us? Because he knows. She's asking him what he can do for us, and
Yeah,
he's
if you-
there, and he could explain it.
yeah, if you're telling me it takes him so much time to do this, then I'm sitting here listening to you saying, is he doing that every month if it takes that much time to do?
When I got the financial statements last, I think, last Wednesday afternoon, okay? The report has to be in by 10 o'clock on Thursday morning, so the reports that we get from the treasurer's office are the ones that you get in your packet, okay? In that time frame, I have to go through them and do an analysis and write up a report, but I don't have time to take all of those numbers and resort them by department. I mean, that's something I could look at doing more like on a quarterly basis, but it's not going to be like at the October board meeting, you're going to get a report for the end of September in that format. It's just there isn't enough time because the meetings are so early in the month.
So Tim, what's the difference reporting versus controlling it before it happens? I think what you were alluding to, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but if you see a PO coming through and you go to the line item, or your personnel go to the line item and said it's already been spent, whoever submits this is coming and has to tell, you stop the process.
Right.
And they have to justify that we are not going to spend on this other line. Why don't you give us the process?
Yes, the
I'm putting words in your mouth.
person in my office brings it to me, brings a purchase order to me and says, this purchase order is going to take this line item over budget. Then I contact the person involved in that. If it, for example, if it was an athletic item, I would contact Art and talk to Art about it and find out, is there a reason that you need to go over budget here? And he may say, well, we're going to go over budget by X amount of dollars on that particular line item, but the line item above that, we're going to stay under by it.
Okay, so then what does your personnel do to cut back on the budget dollars and that other line item so that 3 months down the road, they're using that line item?
Well, the person in my office, we can't go in and change the budget.
I know you
for every
can't,
line
but
item.
how do they notate it so that they know that there's not $1,000 or whatever is 3 months down the road, people can forget?
Yeah, I mean, I keep notes on this, on all these items
Okay.
in my office.
It's
Okay.
the log we
I
were
keep-
talking about.
Pardon?
It's the log that you and I were talking about
Right.
so that you know
Yeah.
account B needs to be 300 less because account A was over by 300.
And just so that you know, we talked to the department chairs and the administrators about that. Anybody that's doing anything with the budget, they're well aware of that they have to be able to justify it and they have to watch the others because they cannot go over. So,
But it
you
also
know.
depends upon how, I mean,
And-
and also to fully explain it, there's certain things, you're just paying them, there's no PO, and you wouldn't know till after the fact, right?
There may be certain
I mean, like,
situations,
like tuition reimbursements. There's rules that
Well-
we have to follow on that, right? And if we go over budget, we go over
Tuition-
budget.
Well, not
Departments so
tuition
much.
reimbursement, as an example, we held, the contract calls for a limit of $50,000, so that's held until September, regardless of when people turn it in. The deadline is September 30th, and we hold it to make sure that we don't go over the
Oh,
$50,000.
okay, okay. But aren't there certain things that would depend upon, if you take them out of the imprest account, you're not able to compare them against the budget necessarily, are you?
No. Right.
So you could go over something on the imprest account without really realizing it, right?
You could, yes.
Okay.
I think the biggest area where you're going to have issues with budget is more repair and maintenance types of things, where you've estimated a number and said we want to spend $10,000 on repairs, but you need to go over that. I think one of the line items is repairs for the football helmets. Well, they needed more repairs than there was money in the budget. It went over by a small amount of money. But you're not going to not repair the helmets because you're going to go over budget. I mean, so certain items, you're going to say, yeah, we're going to go over budget on this.
Is there a way we can get a list of what accounts belong to the departments? Because as a board member, I can't tell at what, I don't have a dash indicator where we're at in these different departments. I don't know if we're halfway there, a third way there, close to being there. I have no idea. And if people would ask, all I can say is that I come to the board table and I'm told that we're within budget. But I could not prove that. I don't see the numbers, I don't see how they're stacking up, I don't know if we're on a good trend, I don't know if we're following a nice line.
I think some of that's my responsibility as the superintendent to make sure with the Finance Advisory Council that we're checking on that.
Can we get a list of the account numbers by department?
Well, the budget that you have has
By
all of the
department.
accounts by department. If you look in there, it shows in education, I think it starts with English, and then it shows all the math accounts, and
Okay.
it shows all the.
Because I have put many of these pages in spreadsheets, and I have clocked 100 hours, but they're not all linked together yet, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around that so I can systematically
We have a-
track how they percolate to the top.
We have a report in DCR, if I'm not mistaken, that goes by line item where it says budgeted amount, year to date, and then remaining amount or something. And it's the report that Eileen provides department chair. Maybe on a quarterly basis, we could provide that in the board packet.
Okay.
Just be a forewarning, that will probably be 100 pages of paper per board member.
Yeah, I understand Laura's concern too, because you want to make a valid judgment
Sure.
on these. But I find it difficult too, to not have a vehicle that exudes the same confidence in us that you have, you know, and so if we had something available to us, this is where we are, this is what we're budgeted, you know, that would be good.
Okay, any
We
other
use it,
questions?
I asked a couple other questions, Tim, did you have a chance to look at them?
I think I talked a little bit about the tuition reimbursement
Right.
one.
But the other part of it is there's some rules of how much can be reimbursed per person besides the 50,000 or not.
There's a limit of $150 per semester hour, but I
Okay.
don't think there's a limit per person. I think.
Okay, thank you.
On the earmark bills, there was a bill in there for disposable products, and all of the items that were on that bill, that $1,600 bill, were for paper towels, liners, those types of things, which is all part of their contract. There was also a question with regard to a provision in their contract that they would provide contract ground services not to exceed $9,500. When that was put in the contract, Airmark used to contract out everything in terms of, you know, cutting the grass, doing, you know, spreading, taking care of pesticides, all those types of things. They didn't do any of those types of things. They do that in-house now, so they don't contract out any of that. Their personnel actually cut the grass and they're certified, they handle the pesticides, that type of stuff.
But how does that,
So-
it doesn't change the terms of the contract. It says they're responsible for not contracting $9,500. And they're supposed to give us a credit for that every year. I mean, it's another, like we had at the meeting, here's what the contract says on paper, and they want it, between us and them, they're saying, well, we do things different now. But they don't not raise the 3% every year because things changed. So if they agreed to a 95% allotment for outsourcing services, $9,500, excuse me, for allotting services, why aren't we insisting that we get the $9,500 credit? Otherwise, I'd like to say, let's not do the 3% increase in CPI, because I don't like that term too much.
Well, I think it's because the $9,500 included things like hiring a company to come in and do all the.
But that's not
grass
what the
cutting.
agreement says. The agreement says we get a $9,500 allotment for them outsourcing landscaping cost. And they had to hire somebody to come in and fertilize or whatever they did. And again, I'm struggling, and we've talked about it, about interpreting agreements that there's parts they like, parts they don't like. There's parts we like, parts we don't like. I don't understand why they're able to reinterpret a provision that says we get a $9,500 credit because they feel it changed. Because if they want to do that, there's plenty of provisions there. I'd like to say, I don't like them too much. Let's not do that this year. So I'm against paying for that fee until they explain why we don't get the $9,500 credit or allowance for that.
I think the fee for Spring Green is a bill, because that service has already been provided, correct?
Yes.
So what I think we need to do, as the board identified as part of our goals for this year, is to try to get through 50%. I think you know that we're starting with the Aramark contract.
Yeah.
But we're still in the process of working with the facilities
Right.
and developing
Well, I
that
know
tool
that,
to
too.
look at those contracts. So, in all honesty, some of these things that you're bringing up, we wouldn't know about until we saw them and you bring them up and you look at the contract.
And I don't, we talked about it. I
Right,
don't have
so
a problem
we-
with this, but in my mind, the language of the agreement is pretty plain. We get a $9,500 credit for outsourcing cost. There's an outsourced cost. Unless they've given us $9,500, I don't think we should pay the bill. I think we should tell them to pay the bill. And if they, at another meeting, want to come in and explain why that provision, they've reinterpreted, or again, in our case, why we're willing to agree to it, let's reconsider it.
Are we able to hold off that bill until December, or is that a bill that needs to be paid and then we need to work with Aramark on
The main bill that they have for 100,000?
no, the bill
the bill
for this, that we
$9,500.
the bill that you're approving tonight?
It's not
is
that, how much
what?
is it?
Oh.
I forgot my email on that.
It's
It's,
Spring Green.
what page is it on?
True Green?
True Green, yeah.
It's True Green.
I forgot to bring my email, I can't get the.
I have it.
I have it here, page 12.
Page 12.
Third one from the bottom.
It's $425.
I mean, we can hold that until we meet as a facility committee and discuss it further.
I'm okay with that if that's the pleasure of the board. Otherwise, we would work on something that they would have to give us a $425 credit.
But I mean,
or further explanation.
Yeah, I mean, we should not pay until they get to $9,500 in my mind.
My only concern is the bill's not with Aramark, the bill's with True Green. So what I want to make sure, but I'm sure that, so I don't want to go past due on a bill and then have to pay the late fee if we find out that we got it somewhere else without. So,
Well, we could do that too if you'd feel more comfortable. I mean, if you're afraid you're gonna get.
well, you get my
credit
point is,
problem at True
I
Green.
think you identified something that we need to look into with Aramark, but the bill's not with Aramark, the bill's with True Green.
We can always apply credit against
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
Aramark
that's what
account.
I'm,
All right,
you know,
that's fine, Kevin.
That's why I'm asking.
And this is only 300. Have we paid other
Yeah.
application fees? I think we have in the past. I think I remember seeing some other outside services, so those probably all need to be credited against Aramark's.
Well, we need to get in detail, like we did with the last meeting with them, about the 3%, or the reduction, yet the 11% increase on their side, but when we found out some things that we shared at the last committee of the whole, it made sense, but it's the point of trying to put that puzzle together backwards.
I understand.
So
I understand. But I agree with Gary's idea. We pay it, and You keep a
Okay.
list and we'll look and see if they owe us a credit. Does that make
Okay.
sense, Tim?
Any other
Yeah.
questions?
The other one was the fire system in the auto
Yeah,
shop.
that was to install the sprinkler system, and it was something that was never done during the construction.
Was it supposed to be done?
Well, I'm sure
Is it another item that was part of the construction and somebody just missed?
From
like
when
the
Dennis,
plan?
from when Tim and I were talking with Dennis on this, this was something that was supposed to be our responsibility.
Okay.
Something about sensors so that they talked to, there was a cost in there, not just a general alarm system, but the overall, so they talked to our building alarm system, so when one goes off, it goes out
Okay,
and talks to the fire department.
okay.
I thought that was the one we were getting further explained, when you and I were asking the same question in August when we first started.
Okay, anything else?
I just have a quick question on page 11 of the board-approved payables.
Board
Kevin,
approve what?
Board-approved payables.
Page
It's the
11?
handwritten 11.
Okay.
And, is that for a day, Kevin or Tim, either one?
Which one?
Which one?
It's
The
in the middle of
nurses?
the line, substitute nurse. Is that a per diem or is that a several days? I just,
Oh, touch.
We have to have a certified nurse when our nurse is out, so that's a different cost.
yeah, is that does each line item represent one day?
Apparently not, they're not the same amount.
I was just,
So I'm gonna say, no, it doesn't.
they're close, but I don't know if it's hourly or,
I couldn't answer that right now without.
Okay.
Let
looking
Tim
into
get
that.
back to you on that.
all right.
All right, anything else? All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Mary Ann?
No, we gotta talk about the minutes, because it's in,
Okay. It's a, yeah. So, what questions do you have on the minutes?
okay, the minutes that came in the packet had Tim's corrections. I think if we're going to vote on the ones with the corrections, we should see them, if they come in the packet, they should come in track changes,
They should come what?
in track changes.
That was my whole concern about sending them out in Word.
Right, but you could send them in Word and track changes, so you can see, because the ones that were in the packet, the track changes had been accepted.
Yeah,
Whereas
but-
the ones on the screen, you could see the track changes.
But here's my question to you is, Tim has reviewed it, everybody's reviewed it. The only changes came back were made. Why do you need to see it if you received the email, what the changes were made, that you need to have shown in a, because the minutes that are gonna be approved and go on the record are the minutes that are gonna look like this.
Because the discussion on the minutes needs to happen here, not on an email thread.
But okay, so your discussion on the email, right now you're discussing about changes that were requested by a board member to have happened. So what other discussions do you have on the the content of it, or?
Well, because those changes need to come to this table, and people need to see the changes. If they have a comment, then we accept those as changed, and then they could be
Okay, so
accepted.
here's my question to you. Any board member have any problems with the changes that were recommended to the minutes?
Well, these were different minutes than in the past. On the open minutes, on Tuesday, October 25th,
Okay,
under superintendent's report.
What page is it on?
what
Laura?
page?
Well, there's an 8141. It's October 25th,
First page.
2000.
8141,
8141.
Okay.
okay.
You know, I would just like to ask in the future, it said, Dr. Skinkis said that there was a full slate of advisory councils. I would like it to reflect which advisory councils met. I think that you met with the following advisory councils, because if we're tracking this historically, we should know, I think it was financial curriculum policy.
Right, and the next page though, it does say every report that we met with.
Yeah, it shows his advisory reports.
Curriculum, facilities, personnel, policy, it's on the third page.
On the next page,
8142, advisory council reports.
so paragraph 1, 2, 3,
Three.
4, 5.
Yeah,
I don't recollect, in the middle, right where you see that sum of $15,000. So, in that paragraph,
Yeah.
The next sentence says, because of time involved, Mr. Welch would not like to see the current staff work on, and then this is the part that, on the accounting, which includes, now, my recollection is that we didn't want them to do the copying. I thought the audit company was going to do the accounting.
If you look right after that, it says which includes copying the invoices, check receipts, anything from a construction project.
Right, but what does it mean by on the accounting, which was added by Tim?
We didn't hire anybody doing
We didn't
accounting
hire
on that.
anybody.
Yeah.
No, but see how, this was added, so we said, would not like to see the current staff work on the accounting, which includes. Now, the words on the accounting, which includes, were added.
On the accounting of the construction project.
Yeah.
Right, but my recollection was, we didn't want staff photocopying those items.
Well,
That's what it says.
No, that's what she had in there. And I suggested that we don't want any current staff, administration, or anybody, our current staff doing anything on this. And I said, is there a consensus? Do people agree? And people agreed. So the minutes as originally presented limited what we weren't having them do, the copying.
Right.
And I expanded, it's the whole bill of wax, it's the accounting and includes the copying. So some of the finance people are in the early steps of considering an accounting. And we just came into a consensus last time is whatever they do is fine, but nobody else
No
that's
staff.
being paid
Yeah.
by the district is gonna get involved in it at all.
So that our discussion last month, then, that's what we meant by that. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, those added words, for me, I just remembered that we didn't want them doing any copying and all that, and we were gonna look into a company. Right.
Okay.
Um,
Anything else?
Let me see, I have a note.
Now, these minutes you received 2 weeks prior, a week before you received your board packet. Now, did you have time to look at it during that time period too?
Yeah, I got track changes, but we cannot discuss this via email thread. That would be a violation of Open Meetings Act. We have to discuss these minutes
We as a
in
board, excuse me,
public.
Laura, we as a board decided in the retreat and everything else that if people had changes to the minutes, they would submit that in to the board, not having them reply, but just saying, these are the changes I would recommend on that. Then we can discuss on it. If it's something minor, like what Tim was bringing up with or anything like that, people can go yes or no to it because they're gonna receive their packet with that change on it.
No.
You know what I mean? So, I'm saying right now is, that's the reason why we give the bills and everything even a week before we have our board packet.
We cannot respond to something that Tim gives us and say, I approve that. That is
No,
board
no,
business.
no. But I'm saying right now, if you had additional, you should have submitted it in. You had a week, even more of a week then.
My
She
comments
couldn't,
were
no,
on Tim's changes.
she's right. She couldn't send an email to
No.
us saying she disagrees with my changes.
No, but if she had other changes that she wanted to say,
But
she could put it
I
in.
think if we let her go through it, we'd probably get done quicker.
I agree, well, the way it was going on, I thought we were gonna, any other changes?
No, but my comments were all on Tim's changes.
Yes, they were.
Okay, so what other changes do you have comments about? Because it looks like the sheet's bleeding right there with all the red ink on it.
Well, those are what he put in. And so I think as a board, we need to ask, if we get these printed, that's fine, but I think they should be printed with track changes, and we can say we'll accept the track changes at the board table, but we should come,
Kevin, I agree with her for one very important reason. You could have said to Mary Ann, don't make some of the changes. I disagree with them, and let's present them differently. I purposely did it that way. It's just not that hard to print and track to make
I think,
another set.
I think one thing we have to be cautious though is that at what point do we start, I mean, this is what we talked about with sending out the notes early and then doing the track changes is, at what point do we, if we get to a point to where 7 board members send in 7 different changes on the same set of notes?
no, we're talking about one. If Tim did
Right, but I
his
don't
track-
think Tim
okay.
can serve as the overall delegate to
Oh,
just be
right.
the
No.
note corrector.
Nope.
So
No.
that's kind of what's happened is now
But
we
but
got the-
you're supporting my position
Yeah, I'm saying-
unwittingly, because the
because now
point
she
is
puts it on her
whatever
of
she,
which ones does she take?
and that's fine, or on you, or who's ever deciding. But whatever that version is, if it's different than the version you really just circulated, it should
We could track the
make an
changes.
easy tool to say, here's,
All right, Mary
Big
Ann, from now on,
changes.
could you please put the track changes in? Thank you very much. Any other questions on minutes and bills?
I have a question, and I don't know where it belongs. it came out, you know, as I was reading through the minutes on the district goals.
We didn't get to
It's
them.
on page 8134. And it was one sentence with the Finance Advisory Council.
8134 word.
Right there, district goals 2011, 2012.
Okay.
And it's a sentence in the middle, and it says, "The Finance Advisory Council met with PMA. They are working on an agreement." Now, to me, that sounds like board work being done in an advisory council meeting, and it's my understanding that board work shouldn't go on in there, but you could, like, work could have gone on to say, yes, we should get somebody in here, here's some companies, what would we want them to do? But when I read this
That's a typo.
sentence,
That should be Tim and Kevin, and I have the original notes that went out.
okay, so is this,
So that shouldn't say they, that should be Tim and Kevin. I brought the Finance Advisory Council to meet with PMA before that, and both board members could acknowledge publicly, no, we did not agree to any agreements or anything at that table.
But it doesn't say you agreed to anything, and there's a provision in the statute in our policy of certain agreements over a certain level the board has to approve. Below that level, well, first of all, the administration's supposed to present any agreement to us, which any advisory committee could work on. It come to us. If it's over a certain level, it has to come to us. But most agreements don't come to us.
Right.
So the fact that we have advisory committee meetings and there's one, it might be a board member there helping with it, it's not board business. It's the administration's responsibility to prepare the agreements and present them to us. Right?
well, okay, well, I mean, the sentence just seemed like
So
there
we'll
was
revise
board
it.
business, and I didn't know where to bring it up or where to discuss it, and you say, no,
Okay.
that was.
So we'll revise 8134, take out they, and put in Tim McGinnis and Kevin Skinkis, Dr. Kevin Skinkis.
Oh, because I thought it was the board members are working on the
No,
agreement.
it's Tim McGinnis, and Kevin just said that
Okay.
5 minutes ago.
So do you see, Tim, where that seemed odd to me? Because it seemed like two board members were working on the agreement in that
Okay.
committee
Anything
meeting.
That would be a
Any other
violation
questions?
of the
Yes.
policy or the Open Meetings Act.
Right, and that's why I questioned this line in the minutes.
And we revised it. Any other questions
Does that make sense?
on minutes and
Sorry.
our
Hold on a
bills?
second, Matt.
Yes.
They could have left the word they.
Uh-huh.
Those two board members could have worked on it because it's not a violation of the Open Meetings Act or any of our policies or any law. I'm not the board's attorney, but based on what we've been told, they could have included one or two board members.
As long as they're advising the
Yeah,
superintendent.
as long as they're advising the superintendent.
But, so, then this is my intention. So if two board members are working with the superintendent on the PMA agreement.
Excuse me, two finance advisory council members working with finance on PMA who is providing finance. That's, you know what I mean?
Is that board business?
Well, they're not approving the agreement.
No, we're not approving, we didn't,
I think it's okay to work on it.
yeah.
And after we met with them, Kevin called everybody and said, this is what I'd like to do.
Yes,
And then we approved the going forward of that a month ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's-
That's what happened.
yeah.
Okay, well, it's a gray line to me as we use these
But hold on,
advisory
wait, Laura, how is
councils.
it a gray line when you voted for it, when we voted?
She wasn't meaning the agreement, she's
Well,
meaning
but I'm
whether
just
the
saying right
board
now it's a
members
gray
could
line.
do that.
Okay, from now on,
Matt,
we need to be
agree.
able to identify questions and concerns prior, so that we're talking a long time. That's the reason why we are sending out minutes and invoices a week before we receive our official packet to identify any issues.
Actually, Matt, I couldn't do that because that would be board business through an email thread, and that
Okay.
would be a violation. This really is a public meeting.
All right, is there any
This
other
is a
questions or
working meeting.
concern, any other questions on this? All right, Mary Ann, if you can make
Wait
that.
a minute. I
Okay.
feel like you are cutting me short. I think it's disrespectful, it's rude. I
Okay.
brought in tension, there's 7 members here, and I wanted to voice opinion. I just thought it was a gray area. We want to be careful. We want to use these advisory committees as they're meant to, but not for 2 members to be doing board business apart from the
And
rest.
they didn't, and as it was said twice already, it didn't happen like that, so.
Okay, well, and any other board members, someday they may also have tension, and we should, this is the place where we would bring that up.
Okay, is there any other questions on this? All right, Marion, will you take the vote?
Wait, are we voting on
Your
the
vote.
closed? We were given, Tim, because I too read everything, the 4 sets of,
Yeah, we
Tim,
have
you
to
provided
amend it.
us with closed minutes and you had them with struck out or blackened out.
Yeah, but what was presented in the package were the revised minutes.
Okay, but we're not voting on accepting the minutes like that, strucken out or blacked out the
No, we are
closed
not.
session
We have not
minutes?
made a decision on that yet.
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that's not in the vote.
But we do have to amend the motion because we did make a change.
All right, so will you?
So it will be, approve the minutes, the meetings held on October 11, open and close as amended.
As amended,
As
okay.
amended.
All right, do you have a problem, Mr. Second?
We just, how much did we amend?
We changed the
Just
word "they"
They.
on
Kevin,
one page to
to-
Dr. Skinkis and Mr. McGinnis.
That's right.
Okay,
Well,
Do you have a, okay?
yes.
All right, Marion.
wait, and the amended includes the changes.
No, they don't, because the
No.
changed minutes were included in the package for
That's
the
right.
minute, for the meeting.
Okay, Marion, please go for the
I
vote.
kind of have
Let
a
it
problem
finish.
with that,
All right,
Wow.
then to vote against it. If you have a problem against, then vote against it.
because that means there was an action done without a vote. So the
No.
minutes were changed and then brought here, and then we're voting on those minutes. So
Laura, they sent us out a draft minutes.
we
That's
can't
right.
discuss them.
Can I
when they come
finish? We didn't. We didn't discuss them. Some people made comments, or at least one person made comments. Our secretary, with the advice of the superintendent, decided to adopt those changes and include the amended minutes in the package. So when I read the motion, it says approve the minutes held on October. It's the minutes that were included in the package, which already had the changes in it.
Does it say include the minutes that were amended? Somebody made
No.
a decision.
Aren't
There
these
was
to
minutes
nothing
the
separate
first
to
time
amend.
being
No
presented,
amendment.
therefore they're not amended?
All right, can I
Yeah.
tell you right now,
Okay.
are we done with discussion on this? We keep on hitting this.
Well, let's
Let her
clarify so that
finish,
she
okay,
understands.
so we don't have to do it
These
again
are the-
next month.
So these minutes are being presented to the public for the first time,
Right.
so they're not amended.
They're not amended.
No.
We didn't amend them. This is what's being
The only
presented.
amendment
The
we
minutes
made
that
was-
came in your package on Friday are what we're voting on.
But we saw stuff on the email that was amended.
This is what we're voting on.
This is what we're
These
voting.
minutes here that are in your packet that were delivered to your house on Friday, he read the motion, we changed one word, seconded. That's what we're voting on.
But I read something in an email with changes, and I made a cognitive decision that those changes were appropriate. So I did board work prior to coming here, and this is the second version as a board member that I will approve.
No,
No, you
we
didn't.
didn't
You didn't
approve
approve.
anything.
You didn't
We're voting on it
approve
for the
anything.
first time right
We
now.
have not, this is the first time we're voting on it.
You can do all the thinking you want at home, but it doesn't matter until you're here and we're taking a vote.
That's right.
And we're taking a vote on what was delivered to your house on
And can
we
Friday.
do board
and can
work
we
every
take,
night.
and can we take the vote now, please? All right, Marion, please.
I have problems.
Mr. Goodchin?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Okay.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Cindy?
Yes.